Hello, everyone. DM Geezer Jim here, continuing along with our read through RTFM. Read the freaking manual. Currently, we are reading Sigil, Uncaged Faces of Sigil, one of my favorite D&D books. Period. Great book to kind of get to know the ideas of Planescape, the people and the beings and the creatures that live there, and their interactions. A lot of really good adventure seeds kind of buried amongst the NPCs, and some good overall information to help you build your campaigns and understand it. So, not typically, we're reading through the book word for word, line for line, reading through the story of each of these NPCs, and then at the end of it, we spend a couple minutes talking about the potential utility, usefulness, or application of these non-player characters, or some of the adventure plots that come up with them. Next up is Xideous. This is a Shaator Demodand Ghereleth, depending on which edition you're playing. But let's read. Although Xideous, forward to the Book of Keeping, the Shaatorian revision. Although I am only halfway through the writing of this work, I find it anxious to detail how it came to be. What once seemed only a pipe dream appears to become more of a reality with every dip of my ink quill. If I write a foreword, the book must surely follow. When I first undertook this project, it was with no more than a compulsion to write an intense hatred for Yugoloths. They measure their superiority by the slim margin by which we Ghereleths are summoned more often than they. It is not, I assure you, dear readers, because we are weaker and enjoy servitude. Indeed, few wizards or priests are ever delighted to find they have summoned a vengeful and often disobedient Ghereleth. It is a point of pride with us. I deign to eliminate this inequity by collecting specific information on summoning Yugoloths, specifically the public and true names that allow a spellcaster to bind them. The only definitive text on the subject of summoning Yugoloths, the Book of Keeping, is an ancient and obscure one. I have interviewed extensively those who claim to have read its pages. My contracts actually retrieved the information, but it was according to my directions. I have also laid eyes on a few torn pages passed on to me by the gnome Kesto Bright Eyes. Although I have yet to hold one of the rumored 4 remaining full copies of the text in my hands, I plan to one day obtain all of the existing books so that the information might finally be where it belongs, with the Ghereleths. As of now, I am still looking, though through others, of course, for a group of adventurers willing to hunt down the books. Well, might you ask how I plan to revise a book by which I have only bits and scraps? I obtain information by any means possible. Those who have aided me in this endeavor cannot be surprised that I will betray their confidence by giving them due credit right here. I care not for the ramifications when this text is finally seen. I am too pleased with my choice of runners to care about them. That slip of a tiefling, Kylie, has been a constant source of inspiration in the form of astral streakers. Her messages have helped me nail down not only the names of all the Yugoloths that tarry in our path through Sigil, but also those of more permanent, powerful types. I use the term loosely. Residents like Akeen and Shemeshka the Marauder. Masquerader is more like it. She'll bow to serve some prime material plane summoner soon. It is fitting that one of her servants, the tiefling Kulkuk, passes on the knowledge to enslave her. And that powder puff Estevan of the Planar Trade Consortium, he has given me access to the lower planes via his merchant caravans. My Kelubar and Frostu informants liquefy themselves while on Carcerai and travel in and out of Sigil in opaque bottles. The Ogre Mage is more than willing to take on questionable cargo. One of his runners makes the deliveries, knocking 3 times and leaving the bottles outside my cell here in the gatehouse. I so enjoy the constant screams of the madmen who crowd the other cells of this wing, the sweetest music in all of the hive. My Ghereleths visitors reconstitute their bodies and I extract their information and return them, once again bottled, to the doorstep within the hour. Only a few bottles have been stolen, often imbibed by the mad or by the alchemist Woolly Cupgrass, though he hardly seems sane. Estevan hires adventuresome types off the street to be his runners, and I have pulled a good few into my cell for a closer look. Of course, the fools can then never leave. Finally, I wish to thank the Titan Zadara, who has funded my practical needs since I first came to Sigil, though how she learned of my project I might never know. Her wealth buys me quills, inks, parchment, and foodstuffs. She pays Estevan and Kylie, and even swayed a few bleakers who share my worldview into allowing me a fetid cell in their asylum. I hold myself up in this most comforting bastion of angst after exiting Carcerai post-haste. While canvassing the lower planes for all of the information on Yugoloths I could find, or buy from the Batizu and Tanari, I was discovered. It took the Yugoloths longer than even I thought it might. But they don't dare stage an attack in this, the Lady City, and there are few Yugoloths in Sigil in the first place, to the city's credit. I choose this relative solitude not from fear of the Yugoloths, but because I must concentrate on my work. I am not hiding, but it would be foolish to be too accessible. As a matter of fact, I was able to find someone of use to me right here in the gatehouse. I first heard him performing, again I use the term loosely, his poetry for the addled coves waiting in line for admittance. It turned out that the bleaker, a Fenzir troll named Morven, was not just another bad poet, he was infamous. I decided he was the perfect vessel for disseminating my poetic works, a side employ of mine to keep my mind sharp. For not only is Morven in the public eye, but when he performs my works, they have twice the impact because they shine above the dreck that the audience is normally expecting. Of course, the bleaker is too self-absorbed to read anyone else's work knowingly. With my talisman of dreaming, I visit him as he slumbers and fills his mind with poems that even a child could recapitulate. I particularly enjoy the fact that my poems of futility and foreboding, which I've heard him bring the few accolades he's ever received, will also eventually sound his death knell when I am through with him. In fact, dear reader, by the time you pore over these words, I have likely already taken Morven back to Carceri with me for a lifetime, his, that is, of amusements. It is indeed a great deal I have accomplished thus far and will accomplish before my task is through. I am as anxious to turn the page as you are. The end. All right. So we are looking at a forward to a book, almost a autobiographical entry by Xideous, a Shaator Demodand or Ghereleth, depending on your edition. A very powerful one. This is the Shaators are kind of up the chain as far as Demodands go. There's only 10,000 of them, and these guys are the top 30%, if you will. So this story gives us an insight into some of the tension between our fiends, between the Ghereleths and the Yugoloths specifically. There's been a couple other Yugoloths we talked about, Shemeshka the Martyr, Akeen. And if you know anything about the Blood War, you know that the Yugoloths kind of keep the fight going on. Ghereleths aren't really mentioned a ton in regards to that. So what does this story give us for gameplay applications? Number one, as a source for adventure. Straight up, it said right out early in it. Xideous is trying to hire adventurers to find the 4 books of keeping. If you use this path, you're definitely going to lead into more of a fiend-driven, lower planes-driven campaign, or more of a planar hopping campaign, as there are only 4 of these books of keeping still intact and in existence, and no one knows where they are. One of them could be Asmodeus' library, one could be in Bahamut's bookshelf, one of them can be floating around in an air bubble at the bottom of the plane of water. Wherever you want to, as a Dungeon Master, position these, Xideous can be a source to kick off a greater campaign. If your players ever go crossways with any of the more powerful Yugoloths in the city, Xideous can also offer up a safe landing spot, a foil, as it were. Your players have pissed off Shemeshka one too many times. Well, Xideous is there to, enact vengeance, wreak havoc amongst the Yugoloths, which could also potentially be considered protecting them or aiding them against Shemeshka. There is a couple other contexts here between Kylie, between Akin, between Shemeshka, Estevan, a few of the other non-player characters that we've read about initially earlier in this book are connected to Xideous. So the web gets a little bit more tight. You're able to make some more connections as we get further into this book. But ultimately, if you want to play with fiends in your campaign, but you don't want to follow the typical devil versus demon versus blood war path, Xideous and the strife between the Ghereleths and the Yugoloths can provide a different avenue to play with some fiends. But yeah, that's it. We're going to go ahead and end the video here. We're almost done with this book. We're getting so close. Hopefully you've been enjoying the series. Let me know what you think. Like, follow, subscribes are appreciated. Feel free to join us over on Twitch if you want to join us for live chats. We're there 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time. Would love to meet you and have you along over there as well. But more importantly, thank you for your time. Hopefully you're enjoying this series. We'll be back with more videos soon. Take care.